right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for tuning in to Way of the Warrior. My name is Trevor Martin, and I'm the founder of RMF Coaching. And as you know, one of the things I love going out and doing is finding individuals on social media that are powerful individuals that make a point to promote positivity out into a dark world, right? We know that the world is so dark, it's so full of that shit, right? We want people that can break through all of that shit. And I just so happened to find a fellow warrior. Dre, I got to tell you, thank you so much for joining me today on Way of the Warrior.
Oh, pleasure is mine. I never thought I would be doing this. It has been a bunch of years since I've been recording anything. I'll get you there and why I was recording. Fortunately, there wasn't YouTube at that point, so I'm that old. Uh, yeah, and there is a CD or a DVD hidden somewhere in my dad's house, so nobody can get to that because where are you going to play a CD or a DVD today, right?
Right. Hey, that's fair. I got to tell you, when we first, before we hit record, I made a
Mm-mm.
comment about the background, the walls behind you. When you think, or the wall behind you, excuse me, those pictures. When you think Way of the Warrior, like that fits perfectly, right, into the whole narrative. So if you could kind of take us back a little bit, like how did all of this how did you get started? What are you currently working on? And yeah, let's start there.
Let's start with the background. So actually, the company I was working for before decided to change. It was a technical gear company here in Abu Dhabi. So they decided suddenly to change their decorations. All of these were in the office. And they're like, oh, we are gonna get rid of these and whatever else. I was like, no way, I'm taking them. They're like, you're gonna do what? You already deal with warriors and tactical gear and equipment the whole day, and then you want to go back home, see combat again. It's like you guys should see the movies I watch or the books I read. It's a 360 type of thing. It doesn't really end, you know. Um, it's funny because I would have never thought I would be doing what I'm doing today. I come from, okay, so this is not gonna sound like very elegant, bumfuck nowhere, Romania. This is how I call it. 300,000 inhabitants, a little city, I guess. Very industrial and very gray, very gray. On the Danube, that's the only thing. So imagine the Danube being as the European Mississippi for
Okay.
context.
Thank you.
Um, the only thing that was ever happening there was the steel industry, one of the biggest facilities for manufacturing steel in the South East Europe. And the other thing that was happening growing up were the gypsy clans and mafia and whatever else cutting each other with swords. So, yeah. Um, Kind of like, I mean, I grew up there. I think I put the story of my grandparents on LinkedIn recently, gave a little bit of background on the family
Good.
that I come out of. Um, but I always wanted something more. Everything was too small for me. No matter, so I was doing well in school, surprisingly, because I was extremely independent and I would do a bunch of bullshit on the side. But I was extremely independent. Me, I always wanted to be independent. Well, I kind of did. When you are young, you think you are going to make better decisions than your parents and your family and whatever else. Well,
Right.
now if someone could give me instructions, if someone who's listening this can give me clear instructions on how to do life step by step, that would be very helpful because adulthood, and where I can unsubscribe to adulthood because it's not as fun as I thought it was. Yeah, there is a lot of
Preach.
independence and then there is a lot of responsibility. So, if any kids are listening to us, do not grow up fast. Do not. You could also tell that to your son, who I'm sure it's every teenager does that, right? Anyway, I went to college, kind of didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. My dad wanted me to be an engineer. He's a nuclear engineer. But that wasn't really for me because
Mm,
I suck at mathematics. The only way I can make
You and me both.
the only way I can make additions and multiplications and actually understand numbers if you attach the dollar sign to them, and then it kind of makes sense.
Oh, and then I can do it all
Everything
day long.
start right. Everything falls into place.
Yep.
So I think one of the elements that kind of gave a hint, like I mean, there are a couple of them. I saw 9/11 on TV and it was such a shock. I was like, what, 14? I'm born in 86, so you guys make the math of how old I was. Um, so that was a devastating event for everyone around the world, not only for you guys. So it had an impact. And then I think the second one, because, well, we were already in the age of television and whatever else, was the invasion of Iraq. So as we are watching that on TVs, right? I tell my dad, I was like, I was 11th grade in high school, 12th grade, we finished high school and then we had to college. So I tell my dad, it's like, I'm gonna be a war journalist. His face, all of his
Oh,
blood drains
I
out
bet
of
he's
his
like,
face.
yeah,
He was like, he kind of put it on the fact that I'm like, whatever, a teenager doesn't really know what she wants, whatever
yeah,
else. After the, I think his disappointment was bigger for the fact that I wasn't planning to become an engineer in any way, shape, or form, than the fact that I think he thought I wanted to run towards danger because in my head was something cool to do or whatever else. Um, and then I went and I actually studied journalism. I worked as journalism and I have a second major in English. I could have been an English professor. Not really interesting. I found that extremely boring. Yeah, no. But definitely I read everything English literature from Beowulf to Salman Rushdie
yeah,
in 4 years of college. So that was kind of helpful because I enjoy reading a lot. That was
yeah,
kind of fun after we passed the old English, where I needed a translation of the original translation, then the third translation, because there were different translations from different eras, and English didn't always used to sound the same, right?
yeah,
Um, so first year in university, I decided I'm gonna go for an internship. And there is actually a funny story. So I did several internships before I had to do at the end of the first year the mandatory internship. This was part of our program.
okay,
So we were doing that in a local television. First day, like I was platinum blonde and whatever else, and everyone was looking at me as if I was some Barbie. And obviously the joke started and whatever else. So the director of the television decides to send me to this okay, so this is 2004, right?
okay,
The thing of announcing fake bombs was also a common practice in Romania, so it wasn't only a US thing. So
okay,
people would announce bombs here and there and everywhere and whatever. So the director of the television decides to send me with a camera crew to the hospital, last level of the hospital, right? Where someone announced a bomb. Well, we knew that the last level of the hospital was for mental health problems, right? Well, the elevator didn't work. This is like eighth floor or ninth floor. So I tell the camera crew, it's like, we're going to take the stairs. We are going up. I don't care. I don't think this is real. Completely. Like nobody in their right mind does that. I was like, we are going up. The camera crew is like, what? Yeah, we are going up. And I don't wait for him, so he's following along and whatever else. We got kicked out. They sent us down again. We went back up a second time. Obviously, by that point, all the law enforcement and whatever else kind of decided it was fake and whatever else. They had to give a statement because we were there and we went up the stairs like nobody else did. Nobody else did that. So the director of the television came and he looked at me and most probably he thought in his head, man, she's either very dumb or she's very brave.
yeah,
Which, but me in my head, I kind of made the calculation. Like, I mean, listen, in Romania, we don't have weapons. We don't have this. The biggest threat is a knife. It's a blade.
right,
So that's your threat right there. At that point in time, explosives and whatever else. Plus, we didn't have this religious extremist in any way, shape, or form.
Okay.
And although Europe has a history of terrorism and domestic terrorism and whatever else, no, we had other problems to deal with in the
Preach.
post-communist era. So yeah, I kind of ended up after that being hired at the television. That's the only time when I actually practiced journalism because as soon as I finished college, I was like, I'm never doing this again. This is such a shitty world. I was like, nope, they teach you one thing, and then what happens actually when you end up working for the mass media and whatever else is complete bullshit. Last year in the university, I went to France with a scholarship. Did I tell you I was a nerd all along and I had a scholarship all along? Yeah, I was one of those kids. So, went to France, got a scholarship, advertising and communications in French. I was a news correspondent for the same local television from the European Parliament because I studied in Strasbourg. And then got an internship in the European Parliament, one of the most boring organizations that I ever worked for. They do nothing and they get paid a lot of money. So you're going to receive some hate for this statement, but it's the truth, man. It's the truth. Completely useless, completely useless. So I got bored after 6 months. I was 21. I wanted way more
Okay.
adventure and more. And plus, both Strasbourg and Brussels, they are rainy. I don't like rainy places. They depress me really bad.
Okay.
Although now I'm missing it after so many years in the Middle East. Definitely, I'm missing it. Um, so I went back and I was like, okay, I kind of like this politics path and whatever else. Let me try to do something for my country, right?
Nice.
So I got a job as a chief of staff for a member of the parliament. Things weren't changing as fast as I wanted them to in terms of policies, in terms of how people were looking at things. So at the end of 3 years, I didn't even wait for his mandate to end. I was like, you know what? I'm out, man. I was like, nope, this doesn't interest me anymore. Got an international job. I was supposed to be sent to Latin America. It was this type of job where they send you with a team in different countries and you are assigned there for a specific time. You do a report on the economy and so on and so forth. I was supposed to go to Latin America a few days before. They tell me they're gonna send me to Lebanon. This is 2011, man. Arab Spring is so I'm like Lebanon, Libya. Which one is it?
Yeah.
This doesn't sound really good.
No.
Um, I ended up falling in love with Beirut. I had some of the best years of my life there because I stayed 3 months initially instead of one. I ended up staying three, then moved around to Turkey and Dubai,
Wow.
and then quit the job because there were a lot of things that didn't really line up from their promises.
Okay.
And I didn't like the way they were conducting the business.
Makes
So
sense.
I didn't like that. So I was like, you know what? But I also didn't want to go back. So I kind of ended up in Turkey and I tried to make it work. With Turkey is not easy for a foreigner that doesn't speak Turkish, who's not married to a Turkish national or whatever else, because they are very protective in terms of work market, right? Um, had a couple of jobs. One was a consultancy job for a Middle Eastern event, like a Arab Turkish Economic Forum. And then I had another one with an insurance company where I was the marketing person I was for Turkey, Romania, because I'm Romanian, like, I mean, duh.
Right.
And then Iraq. They were opening an office in Iraq. So during that time, I managed to make some connections there. And then I got approached by this woman who was running a defense company. And she kind of dragged me into the sector. It was never a plan. I was like, I'm not really interested in any of this. So 10 years after I told my dad I'm gonna be a war journalist in Iraq. I'm in Iraq um, for a meeting with the Minister of Defense at that time. You
Oh,
know? Needless to say that I told my family after I came back. It was like a 3 day type of thing, because my Iraqi connections didn't want to connect unless I was there
yeah.
on the ground with the people I was bringing in. So I was like, okay. Um, yeah, so then they ended up offering me a job I couldn't say no to, and I moved to Beirut because Beirut was definitely safer. Forget what you know about Beirut today. Beirut used to be fun. Um, so I ended up living 5 years in Beirut until my embassy told me, hey, you got to kind of pack your bags because the security situation is getting really bad. So we predict in the next 6 months to 1 year too. So I packed my bags, and instead of going towards Europe, where it would have made sense because I'm a European citizen, I can live anywhere, I decided, no, I'm going to move to Abu Dhabi because I have enough contacts in the region. I'm going to get a job there. And that's about it, which I did. And I've been here for the past 6 years. I've
That
been
is
moving in between.
that's okay. So to clarify, so and that's what you've been doing for the
Yeah.
past 6 years. To clarify, what are you currently doing?
I'm the business development director. I think that's what my business card says. Uh, for a technology company. We are a technology company. We do a lot of technology related to security and defense.
Yeah,
Um, a lot of EOD, a lot of CBRN, a lot of C4ISR comms. We have some products that we integrate here on the ground. Yeah, a little bit of everything.
that's
We are not a
amazing.
big company. We are not trying to be a big company. Um, but we have been doing really well. Actually, I was brought in on board. So I was with another company in the group. And that was very successful. That was a startup. So I kind of been building it together with the investors and with the founders. And one of the investors took me on his other venture. So that's kind of how I ended up here. And I started doing this 3 years back. But I also have another job because I work nonstop. I've been working for the past 5 years with this company out of Virginia Beach.
Okay,
They're awesome.
that's
They're
awesome.
really awesome. So I'm doing some marketing for them.
Yeah, I think so. Like you're, I can't wait to actually go back and watch this because of the narrative, because how much you've actually done, and the part that's going to stick out to me is you talked to your father like, hey, I'm gonna, your father was like, hey, I want you to be, this, and you actually end up actually in Iraq doing, doing something totally different. I, one of the questions I ask through this is as you go through your journey is talk about some of the obstacles that you have overcome, but your story about going to the eighth, ninth floor, right? I mean, and then we're going back up a second time, like the
We
different
got kicked
obstacles that,
out.
right?
It's like, let's
And
go.
but if I think about one of the reasons why you actually even got sent, you're talking about being a platinum blonde, being called the joke starter, being called a Barbie,
Mm,
the things like that,
mm.
right? I'm sure you got some sexist comments, all of that, all, the innuendos probably out the door, and then to go get sent on this, but take the challenge head on. And in when we think about obstacles, when we think about that warrior mentality,
Mm,
a lot of times we associate the word fear with
mm,
the word obstacle, right? It's something that I'm faced with. Will I get through it? The fear starts to climb, and you
mm.
sit there and you go, I mean, we don't really have guns. The biggest thing I got to worry about, or explosives, the biggest thing I had to worry about at the time was a blade.
Yeah, well,
Everybody up. Everybody,
everybody goes up.
let's
Yeah,
go.
it's like kind of a logical thing, So fear comes from an irrational, when you are emotionally controlled by
Preach.
things. Yeah. So don't get me wrong. I'm afraid, like everyone else, of a million things.
Right.
Okay. It's not that I'm special in any way and I'm gonna say now, no, I'm never afraid of anything. No, of course I am. But I'm the kind of person that the more I am afraid of something, the more I'm gonna do it, get it over with. What's the worst that can happen? Never
I,
ask yourself that question. That's a bad idea to ask yourself that question because I've been showed several times what's the worst that can happen. And then I tried it two, three more times. So I get the t-shirt and I take some pictures and
right,
whatever else, you know.
right.
Um, no, I'm afraid like everyone else. The only thing is, I think, and this is a tested and tried thing, and it's super strange. So I can get anxiety from really dumb things, day-to-day things, okay, that can trigger my anxiety like that.
Yeah,
But when we are in a really shitty, dangerous situation, my brain is so clear. And I don't feel any fear. I don't know if it's the adrenaline pumping and it's like, whatever, you know.
yeah,
Um, so I don't really, I think, yeah, I think I'm a little bit of an adrenaline junkie also at the end of the day, because that's when I don't feel fear. So I'm like, okay, let's go. Because nothing really prepared me in any way, shape, or form for the things that I have been doing. When I tell my friends that are combat veterans and even active duty and whatever else, and I tell them about some of my adventures, they're like, what? You did what? Did you have weapons? No. Did you have any weapons training? No. So how? Because we know that area and we know that other area. So how did you do it? It's like, well, it wasn't being brave. It was most probably being dumb and not thinking about the consequences. Because when you are young, you don't really think of the consequences, right? Maybe if it would be to do it all over again, I would doing taking more precautions
yeah.
and being more aware of the bad things that can happen. Um, so I wouldn't advise anyone. No, do like I did and don't think about it. No, that was dumb. We can all agree. It wasn't safe. That was dumb, but I still did it. Um, and I think along the way, I kind of got lucky to have good people around. Obviously, I was surrounded by a bunch of assholes as well. You were talking about challenges. Well,
Yeah.
apparently the world cannot really accept that a woman that at a certain level, don't get me wrong, I don't look at myself in the mirror and it's like, oh my God, you are gorgeous. I'm not the type of person. I see a million flaws that nobody else is gonna see. And I'm gonna be my worst judge, jury, and executioner and whatever else.
Preach.
Um, but apparently, how I'm perceived as a pretty girl or attractive or whatever you want to say, right? Well, that has been because the world is not ready to accept that a woman that is at a certain level attractive can also be smart. Okay.
Yeah.
So that was shocking for everyone, especially when I was younger. Now I don't really give the opportunity to anyone. I was like, I'm just too old for this shit. I'm just too old for this. Most of my discussions, and I'm just you are dumb. I'm just too
Well,
old for
I,
this.
I think, but right there, I think that you're right. That I don't want to call it an abrasiveness, but that almost like, hey, you're gonna meet me at the level
Mm,
of respect that I know that I deserve. And if you don't meet me there, you're dismissed, right? Done. I don't have time for this. Time is precious. I know who I am. I know what I have in store for me, and I know what I'm going to do. So you can be gone. Like if you're going to treat me disrespect, or if you're not going to get on board with what I'm doing, see ya. So
exactly.
you're that whole like when I think of that whole warrior mentality, though, actually the way of the warrior and how you walk about your life, like you're literally, I mean, you're the definition of that, and that's truly amazing to hear about. So I have to ask
You're
this.
too kind.
Well, thank you, but I truly believe in celebrating individuals. There's the you see the shirts out there that says we're not made the same, right?
Mm,
We are not made the same. We are different, whatever, cut from different cloth, things like that. There's different sayings. That's true. And it takes a certain type of person filled with that moxie, filled with that, that ravenous hunger for
mm.
more, uh, to really, really, I would say, to really, really set themselves apart from the normal narrative, right? So let me, as we close this out, let me ask this: when you think of the future, right? You've got the whole cliche
Mm.
question, like, take me 5 years down the road. What's it look like for you? But when you think for you and what
Mm.
you're doing, I mean, you have been so many places, you've done so many things. what's next?
So it's kind of hard to say what's next because from a professional, like I mean, I've never been one of those people, hey, I need the big house, the picket fence, that type of car. That's not me.
Preach.
That's not me. I like to spend my money on travel. I like to see the world. So what I see in my future is a lot, maybe more free time,
Okay.
right? Traveling more. From a professional perspective, I kind of ticked all of the boxes. So I
Sure.
have no idea what's going to be next. Today, I kind of choose the projects that I'm on, and I need to deeply resonate with the mission, with the vision, with whatever else. It has been a rewarding journey to work for a startup, to bring it to a level where it made the news and it made this. And it got the attention of the public here in only 3 years. Like, I mean, it became extremely successful in only 3 years. So that's incredible, and
That is
especially a startup
incredible.
in manufacturing. Obviously, I wasn't alone on this journey, so we were a team, and we were part of a team. So I kind of take that. I have no idea what's gonna be from a professional perspective. Most probably a change in geography, that for
Okay.
sure, because I've been for the past 13 years in the Middle East, and for as much as I understand the region and the cultural differences, and I know how to work with them,
Yeah.
um, it's tiring at one point, and the more I know my values today, and the more, because I haven't always been like this, right? The more I know my values today, the more I know I'm like, well, I know for sure I don't want to grow old here. This has been an amazing experience. I would love to bring my experience to Western companies trying to enter the region,
I love that.
um, because I can translate very well the region from someone living in the region,
Okay.
okay, as a woman, making it to an executive level, which definitely that there have been a lot of challenges and a lot of assholes around the way. A lot of them, a lot of them. There have been a lot of good people as well, and I
Yeah.
got lucky. But proportionally, I learned more from the assholes, and
Preach.
the product that I am today is like thanks to all of the assholes that told me, no, you cannot do this or you cannot do that or whatever else.
Mm. Yes.
Yeah, everyone who
Hey.
said you cannot do it, I was like, watch me, hold my
Yeah.
beer.
Exactly. That's one of my right there. That's a perfect way to close out. I absolutely love that.
Yeah.
Right. The people that you know what? You go ahead and talk about me. Go ahead and talk about me. Go ahead and say that I can't. Just make sure you spell my fucking name right when you do. Because right? Because I'm going straight to the fucking top. You will not stop this. And that is exactly what this
Yeah.
show is about. I have to tell you, you were by far one of my favorite guests on this show
Oh,
because
thank you so much. You're too kind. You are really
no,
too kind. And
because
I'm very grateful you inviting me.
no, I'm honored to have you as a connection, and I love watching the things that you do and what you talk about and and the passion in which in which with which you speak. So there's going to be individuals that are going to definitely want to connect with you. Dre, what social media platforms are you on, and how can individuals from the audience, how can they get connected with you and get you on their roster?
Like I think the easiest way is LinkedIn,
Okay.
because everything else, Instagram and whatever, those are my very, very private for the people that I know. So we are not sharing those. Also, there are way too many selfies of me doing fashion. So I need to keep that one for myself.
Okay.
But LinkedIn, I think LinkedIn is the easiest way. I think my handle is what, Dre, and on the parentheses, Andreea, spelled with double E-N-A, because that's the way the Romanians spell it, just make it difficult for everyone else. And then it's a C at the end because nobody can really pronounce my family name, so that's okay.
Okay.
Even if you get to know it, it's still very hard to pronounce it.
Well, I have to tell you, it's been an absolute. So first of all, from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much. Not only
Thank you
for
for
being on the
inviting.
show, but for the connection. I think that, you hear the saying, sit at the table with warriors. The conversation is
Yeah,
different, right? And this
correct.
conversation was definitely different. And I appreciate you taking out the time out of your busy schedule to sit with me on Way of the Warrior.
The pleasure is mine.
Means so much to me. Audience, once again, thank you for tuning in, to Way of the Warrior. Please make sure you leave the comments, right? Let us know what, your thoughts on this, on this episode. And if this resonated in any way, make sure you hit subscribe. But more importantly, make sure you're connecting with Dre, because you definitely want to
Okay,
have this
thank you.
badass on your roster. That's for sure.
Thank you. You are being too kind. And again, thank you so much for inviting.
No problem,
Thank
Dre.
you.
Thank you very much for being here.
We
Audience,
keep in
we'll see you
touch.
next
I
time.
think we are going to be good friends,
Oh,
you
absolutely,
and
100%.
I.
You know it. You know it. All right. We'll close this out.
You bet.
See
Thank
ya.
you again.